Hey sweeties, we are doing raised bed gardening today, planting a kitchen garden. I'm going to show you how we did these raised bed planters. We're going to start from scratch, so we're going to go back in time to when these were empty. We'll go plant shopping. We'll fill these with dirt. We'll put our plants in and fertilize, and I'm going to show you at each stage how the plants are looking. It's going to be a good one. Before we get into it, please subscribe to Sweet Savant. Hit that thumbs up, that notification bell. And now let's get into these raised bed planters. We're using the Keter Easy Grow raised bed planters. I purchased these on Amazon in September of 2020, and I was using them with grow bags, but now we're going to plant directly into them. They've got this channel in the bottom where it holds water, so it's a self-watering system. You put this top back on and it's got a water gauge. We're going to talk all about how it works, if it really works, but first we're going to fill it with some potting soil that's got some perlite added to it. I'll put the links in the description for all of the stuff that I'm using, because this takes quite a bit of dirt. This is 60 pounds of dirt. So I need a little help getting these planters filled. So now that we've got our planters full of dirt, we're going to go shopping, starting off at Pike Nursery, a local garden center that's here in Georgia. I believe they have Florida and North Carolina locations. I can get carried away in this place and stay for hours and hours. We're going to try to stay focused and get our raised bed garden plants. We're going to grab some basil. I was debating on whether to get the mint or not, and did not end up getting the mint. You can get distracted when shopping, but just remember, what do you cook with? What do you buy at the grocery store? Tomatoes are always a winner. These are the better bush tomatoes. They stay smaller, more compact, perfect for a container like I'm planting in, and you don't have to worry about them getting so unruly. So we're going to grab a couple of these tomato plants. Pepper is always a good idea to spice up your food. These are mildly hot peppers, not super hot. These are the garden salsa ones, and little cherry tomatoes. These are the super sweet 100s. The tomatoes are tiny. The plants do get pretty long and tall, but they produce such sweet little tomatoes. So I'm going to grab a couple of these as well. The California Wonder sweet bell peppers. I'm going to grab one of those. I cook with peppers quite a bit, so I'm going to get, this has 2 plants in a pot, so hopefully we'll get lots of peppers from that. Some marigolds to attract pollinators and just for the beauty. I mean, this is a kitchen garden, a functioning kitchen garden, but we want it to be pretty as well. So let's head to the checkout and try not to get too distracted. I'm not here for houseplants, so I'm going to try not to buy anything else, but oh my gosh, look how beautiful. Okay. We also need some mulch. So you pick out the kind of mulch you want, and then they will load it into your car. Make sure you get a mulch with no added colors. Now we're going to head over to Home Depot. They had a huge selection of herbs and vegetables, so I'm going to shop through here. And this is where I get carried away. When there's so many things, I just start grabbing everything. I love okra, watermelon, delicious. It's all good, but I'm going to try not to buy too much, more than I can plant in a day, because, eggplant. I am going to get some of these eggplants. And these sun sugar cherry tomatoes, a nice orangey yellow color. And a zip on over to these black cherry tomatoes. See, I get carried away by the beauty of it, and these beautiful purple basil. Okay, I'm going to stay focused. Okay, I did get a houseplant, so, Now we're going to fertilize. We're going to use this organic garden tone. I ordered this from Amazon. I'm going to wear gloves. Oh, this is my Dollar Tree trowel because, you don't have to spend a ton of money on your gardening supplies. So I try to keep that in check. We'll take a look at the instructions on the back and try to measure everything out so we don't over fertilize our plants. So this patio tomato needed a little cleaning up. There were some leaves that didn't look too good, so I clipped those off and removed them before planting, and some of these lower leaves will take off too, because we want to plant it a little bit deep, not too deep, because it's already a stocky, well balanced plant. We don't want to plant these tomatoes too deep. I've got these cages here so that our tomatoes will have, and our eggplants will have, something to hold on to. I've placed our plants sort of where we want it to go to give myself an idea of how we're going to put all of this in. Keeping in mind the direction that the sun is coming from, we don't want our tall tomato plants to shade out our shorter herbs. So we're going to put the tomato plants towards the back and the herbs towards the front. Get those gloves on to save your manicure. And let's dig some holes. Now, I could have added fertilizer to the whole garden bed, but I'm going to focus on putting a couple of tablespoons, according to the package direction, into each hole before we put our plants in, to get our plants off to a healthy start, because these plants, especially tomatoes and eggplant, are very heavy feeders, and they're going to need, in this small space, lots of nutrition as well as water and sunlight so they will grow and produce. So let's dig a couple of holes and get these plants in and get them watered in. A good tip is to have your planting beds prepared before you buy your plants. This is a problem that I often have, is I get excited and go plant shopping early before my actual garden bed is ready, and then I don't get my planting bed ready in time and my plants die of neglect, because then I kind of forget about it. So make sure that your planting bed is ready to go, so that when you get your plants, you can just drop them straight into the soil and get them watered in. Let's speed things up a little bit and get all this planted. Basil is such a tasty herb to go with your tomatoes. I wish I'd found some cilantro, but neither store I went to had cilantro in stock. So you can make your homemade salsa with those peppers and tomatoes. So that was a little bit disappointing, but we're going to get everything else in. And with these cherry tomato plants, I like to bury them pretty deep so that it'll give these young, tender plants a nice, strong root system. Well, that's pretty already. So our plants are planted into this first container. We've got that patio tomato, which started off larger, so we didn't have to plant it quite as deep. That bush tomato, I should call it. It's got a tomato already on it, and we planted, see the smaller tomato plants are down there planted pretty deep. And now let's get on to this next planting bed. We're going to put the super sweet 100 cherry tomatoes in this one. The other planting bed, the first one we did, has the yellow tomato, cherry tomatoes, and the purple cherry tomatoes. Now you see this right here, that's a sucker. We're going to trim off some of these extra little vines because they just drain energy from your plant. So we're going to pluck those off before we plant. We're going to trim up some of these lower branches because we don't want tomato branches hanging out in the dirt there. We mulched to keep that moisture in. We've got our thyme in there. We've got peppers, all those tomato plants. And this indicator is supposed to float up when you water. And this is the little spigot down here. It's very hard to push in. You're supposed to be able to push it in and pull it out. It doesn't work so good. But let's get these watered in, because that is the most important thing you can do once you get your garden planted, is to get it well watered. It is hot It is hot. This Georgia heat ain't playing. The sun beats down on this area all day. And then you can see when it's fully watered, the water seeps down and through that channel and can pour out that spigot. So we're going to just take a look at what we've got planted, our eggplant, and we can, as the plant grows, we can attach it to the trellis there. Our burrito peppers, spicy but not too hot. We're not trying to do ghost peppers around here, but we want a little spice. That is our yellow, gold, orange looking tomato. Then that's that little purple cherry tomato that we've got there. Our basil in the middle and some pretty marigolds at the front. We've also on the side have this patio, the bush tomato. We've got that planted in, and it's got a little tomato on it, so we'll be able to eat soon, I hope. And then in this corner we've got some more peppers. These are the salsa peppers. You know, we like to make that homemade salsa. I'm gonna have to find some cilantro plants somewhere. That's going to be a great addition to our salsa or even our pickled jalapenos. I like a nice pickled pepper. And then we move over to this side, and we've got another Better Bush slicing tomato. And we can attach that to the trellis as it starts to grow as well. This one has a little tomato already on there. So we got a bit of a head start. We've got some German thyme, one of my favorite herbs. I love German thyme in stews, any kind of braised meats or grilled zucchini. That's very tasty. We've got another little pepper plant here. I think I went a little overboard on the peppers. But like I said, I get carried away. You know, I think it's probably good to go with a list. You know, look at your shopping list and see what are you buying, and what do you really want to plant. The purple basil, I mean, I just got it for the looks, honestly. It's just so darn pretty. We've got our two super sweet 100 cherry tomato plants there. Again, we planted those pretty deep to give them a nice root system because those roots will grow out of the stem. This is Thai basil. We've got two Thai basil plants. Great for stir fries and noodle dishes. And our California Wonder bell pepper, a sweeter bell pepper. So that is planting day, May 24th. Let's come back in about a month and I'll give you an update. It's 1 month later and look how our raised bed kitchen garden has grown. This is a view from the back and you can see how full it is. Our cherry tomatoes have grown and we've got loads of little cherry tomatoes just popping off there. Lovely. Our California Wonder pepper there and our Thai basil in the corner is getting real big and bushy, very full. We're going to pinch off those blossoms because after it blooms, the taste of herbs can tend to get bitter. So we'll pinch off those blossoms and we'll have to keep that in check and prune it. Our purple basil is looking lush. I love the contrast of that deep purple with these leaves of the tomato plants. They're looking very full. And you see our patio tomato is, oh wait, first let's talk about this thyme. This is German thyme. It's coming in very nicely. And then our patio tomato, our bush tomato, I should call it, slicing tomato, is turning nice and red. So we'll be able to harvest that very shortly. And we've got another tomato coming. And see how nice and compact the bush tomatoes stay. They don't get super tall and leggy. We've got our garden salsa pepper there. Ooh, lots of peppers, so pretty. Lots of peppers on this. There were two garden salsa plants in there, so there's one back there too. Little spider webs, but that's okay. Just watch where you put your hands when you are harvesting and looking through the garden. We've got a nice red ripe tomato on this bush tomato plant. It did split a little bit because of this was one that was already on the plant when we got it. So the watering was a little uneven for that tomato, but we'll get it together. Our green basil, more traditional basil plant. And our sun gold, I think it was a sun gold yellow tomato. That's growing nicely. We've got some flowers there. We don't have too many little green tomatoes on this one yet. Just a couple. And we look through here. We've got these are little burrito peppers. And I love how the peppers on these sit above the plant. They're really, really pretty. I'm going to try and wait and let all of these turn red because I just love that color. They're very beautiful, as an ornamental, but also very tasty and not too spicy. I'm really so happy with the way that these raised bed planters are working out. They really do save your back. You don't have to get all down on the ground. We're going to do a little pruning and prune out the suckers that have grown sort of in between the main stem and the branches. We'll cut those out. We'll pick out these tomatoes that are ready to go, nice and ripe and red. There are some of those super sweet 100 tomatoes coming in, the little teeny cherry tomatoes. Lovely. We're going to do a bit more pruning of these tomatoes, and that's important too for airflow. We want the air to be able to circulate around the plants, so we'll clip that out. And you can stick this sucker right into the soil and it could grow another tomato plant. That's right, this roots will grow along the stem and you can have a whole nother tomato plant from what you've pruned off. So I'm super happy with the way this is turning out. The cherry tomatoes are growing up over the trellises there. Look how high they're getting. So we might need to find a solution for that. But otherwise, look at how big and beautiful. We've got tomatoes coming, eggplants. And these are Bonnie Globe eggplants. I wonder if I can find the tag in here. I don't see it anymore. But yeah, these are Bonnie Globe eggplants. Stick my hands in here. You can see how big that's getting. So we got a couple, maybe a week more before we can eat that guy. And then we've got this little one coming here. And I think we have another one back there. That looks like one right there. Another eggplant. We've got loads of peppers. And they're really beautiful. They're great ornamental and they're super delicious, not too hot. They've got enough spice, but I just think they're really beautiful. Our green kind of standard basil here. The marigold's so pretty, just brings so much color and helps to attract the pollinators. Cherry tomatoes. Loaded down with cherry tomatoes. This one too. Just so good. And this was that bush tomato plant with the slicer tomatoes. So those are nice and large. And you can see how compact that tomato plant has gotten. Like that's still just maybe a little over a foot high. So it doesn't get tall and leggy and viney like a regular tomato plant. It stays compact. I have one over here and it really bushed out. It's a little bigger than that one. It's about 2 feet tall, but it's loaded with tomatoes. Just really loaded down with tomatoes. Our thyme is getting buried, covered up. Then we have more cherry tomato plants. So we're gonna have loads of cherry tomatoes. I think we have some ripe ones on the other side. I'm gonna have to prune this back a bit more. Our purple basil, I think I planted these more as an ornamental, but they're just as tasty as the green basil. So pretty. And then this is Thai basil. I'm gonna back up so you can get a view of what this is. And remember, this started out as those two little plants. Remember we planted in the corner here at the beginning? But look how massive. They've really taken over that half of the container. I love it. We don't cook with it as much. My daughter uses it more than anybody. She's made some Thai basil chicken fried rice, which is so good. It's so fragrant and tasty. We made a tasty Thai basil lemonade, a cocktail recipe with Thai basil, so I'm going to try that. I'm going to look up that. But I mean, it is huge. It's shading out everything on this side of the basket of the raised bed planter. The pepper plant that's back here is not producing anything, so this is probably the one big failure. It's got flowers on it, so who knows? Maybe eventually something will happen, but I've gotten no fruit, no even hints that it's going to give me any peppers. And these were the larger peppers, not the small hot pepper. Oh, here's the tag. This is the California Wonder pepper. I wonder if we're gonna get any peppers. I think that's really the trick. So that's not doing so well. I mean, the plant looks healthy, but it's just not producing any. I'm sure it's time for me to fertilize this again. We fertilized when it was planted, but I'm sure we'll need some more. Look how pretty. I'm gonna just snack on these right here. Wait, where are they? There we go. Those beautiful tomatoes. And remember, I was talking to you about suckers, right? So when you have a branch that comes out between the main stem and this branch, this is usually called a sucker and is pruned out. Now, I didn't prune this out. I still can, but see, it's getting flowers on it, so it might produce some tomatoes. I pruned a sucker from one of these plants before and just stuck it into the dirt. And look, it catches, it's rooted. I did this weeks ago, and it's turned into a whole nother tomato plant. I should have stuck it into another pot because this is just overcrowded. But I mean, you can see the tomato plants are like the gift keeps on giving. You really only need to buy one or two, let them grow, and then prune off the suckers and just stick it. Like, I would take off the bottom leaves and then put it into just some nice good soil and let the top stick out, and you've got a whole another tomato plant. So it's coming along rather nicely, these raised bed planters. Let's look at this. Oh, these are the eggplants I was showing you before. So we're gonna have, I don't know, some ratatouille. There's a little, see how it's coming out there, this little new one. So we're gonna have lots of eggplants. I also have some eggplants growing in another container, but they're not self-watering containers, so I have to get out and really make sure they don't dry out. But these, I think I've only watered these planters twice since we've put them in. They really have been doing a great job at keeping everything moist. Like, we've gotten some good rains over the last couple of weeks, so that's been great, very helpful. But this area is blasted. It's the south part of our home, and it gets blasted with sun all day long, so it could dry out quickly. But since there's that reservoir in the bottom for the plants to draw from, it's been very helpful. I have been leaving these plugs just plugged in. I haven't felt the need to drain them at all. I just let the water stay in, and I think that's been helping during any dry periods, but this is really hard to push in and out, and that's a big problem. Like if I needed to drain this, I would probably be able to get it out easier, but I couldn't get it back in. Like I needed my husband's help to help me to put this back into the plug back into the container. And then the part that's supposed to float up and tell you whether there's water in there or not, this hasn't worked at all. Like I tried I tried to flood this thing basically. It's supposed to float up and you're supposed to see like a red part of that. I just pulled the whole thing out. And when you see in the red, it means that you've got too much water and you should unplug it and let that water flow out. But I have like intentionally tried to overwater this with the hose in hopes of getting that thing to float up, and it never did. So that's not working too well as an indicator of whether you have too much water or not. But it hasn't been an issue. So far I don't have this draining at all. But these are very thirsty plants. Tomatoes and eggplants especially love a lot of water. So I'm just gonna let it be. If I need to pull that plug out, I'll do so, and then try to get it jammed back in if I need to. But so far I'm just gonna leave it plugged up and let the tomatoes and the eggplant drink up all of the water. So I am gonna maybe side dress these plants, add some more fertilizer, because there's a lot. There's so much here. More tomatoes down there. And they're heavy feeders, so I do need to fertilize them. But all in all, I'm super happy with the way these containers are growing. I have this moisture meter that I got off of Amazon, and if I'm ever curious as to how wet this soil is, I just jam this in there. And I do this with my houseplants as well, and you can see it's moist. It's moist, so there's no need to water, and you can kind of check it at different areas to see how your plants are doing. I'll put links in the description for all of the stuff, the raised bed planter and everything, so you can order if you like. And that is how we're doing so far in these gardens. Let me tell you, I have mixed feelings about these raised bed planters. I mean, they do definitely save your back. But do they work exactly as advertised? Not so much. But I mean, I'm glad I have them, so I'd recommend it. Just know that they're not exactly what they should be, but I mean, they're doing great. We've got a bounty of tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, and herbs, and I'm super happy with the way things are turning out. So thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to Sweet Savant. Hit that thumbs up, that notification bell, and y'all have a delicious day. Follow me at Sweet Savant on Instagram for more garden updates. The link will be in the description box.